Share the screen. All right. Do you guys see my screen, please, yet?
Yeah.
Yep, I can.
All right. Okay. I'm just gonna log into to Azure. One sec, guys. I've got this a subscription, yeah. For some reason, the money keeps running down so quickly. Just from yesterday, it's $10 gone already. How is that possible? Right. Okay, here we go. VMs. So we're just gonna do a quick review of this many projects, and I want to thank every one of you for giving it a go. I know some of you you've done it already, but then your subscription has failed you because it's died on you, and so you can't even get back and log in and show us what you've done. But the task was quite simple for those of you who could follow it carefully. Basically, it's saying, and I'm gonna sketch it here. By the way, guys, this is part of architecture. You would find that I'm more of an architect than anything else, okay? Because I'm able to create images and flows based on information that is presented to me. You see that we have a private VM, public VM, and of course the NVA. Public VM sits in this 10.00 network.4. Private VM sits in 10.0.1. So now I can see the way I've designed it, the name confirms the subnet. So private, and it's private. Public. I didn't do the DMZ one, but I could have done DMZ here. I can DMZ and then MVA. Okay. So now when I print this out or do a report here, it will show the name of the VM, of course its IP address, which is that one, but then the name of the subnets, and you can see they all match each other, right? Which is very clean, easy for the business laymen and auditors to understand. But the task simply was, you've got this NVA, okay, VNet, and you got another VNet here, and that VNet happens to be public. So I'm gonna put a symbol here. 3 dots is VNet, 1 dot is subnet. So we got the NVA VNet. Oh, hang on a second. No, if no, they didn't even design it this way. I'll show you how they designed it. Okay, I'll just assume it's this way, and they designed private. Let me just resketch it a better way. So what really it is so one dot and brackets open and close is subnet. It's Maria on.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
She's not in the waiting area as well. Okay, maybe she's taking holidays. Okay, cool. All right. So these are all in one big VNet. So the task really was, they were saying to you that all these guys naturally by default, each subnet can talk to each other. We all agree on that, right? In a VNet, and at that address space, 10.0.0.0/16, as far as everyone has the 10.0 in their subnet IDs, which is 10.0.0, 10.0.2, 10.0.1, they can all talk to each other. But sometimes it might not be a good thing. It means that if you have a private subnet, like this VM here, you don't want it to find its way to talk to the public, for example. Yeah, and vice versa. So Microsoft says we are not we are not the best as like Cisco at networking, but we have advanced features to help you. We're going to help you with something called a route table. Now, a route table is sketched this way, or the other way, like that. If this is the right way, let me sketch properly. It's sketched this way, and then they have a user there and a box. Now, this route table is attached. Let's use a different color. It's attached to subnet, just like we would attach an NSG to subnet, right? In the route table, we will create routes. So we have routes and subnets. So the subnet is attached here, the route is that. So in this route, you're saying that to go to public, so we write in English, to go to public subnet, please hand traffic over to NVA.
Okay.
And of course, that is traffic going egress outside of the private. So it's going that way. But of course, if this guy is talking to this guy, this guy also needs to respond, right? Public needs to respond. So you also create a route attached to here. And say to go private, use the NVA. Is that
Okay.
yeah? Have we is that a clear assessment of what really went on with the project?
Yeah.
Are you there?
What,
Okay.
what would be an example in the industry of why what would be in the private subnet and what could be in the public subnet that you want
Easy.
to keep separate?
Okay, good. You've asked a very, very good question. I like that. So in the industry, this is just a quick demo from Microsoft. So it really enforces your understandings. But in industry, your architecture would always be a hub and a spoke. And what they will normally do is they will stick a firewall, that secure device, the gateway in the hub. And you say, don't allow, we have development. Oh, guys, this is, you will hear this in industry a lot. Dev, they'll say staging, and they'll say things like production or prod. So the short-term prod is just for production, staging, and then development. Now remember, these are separate what? VNets. So VNet 3, VNet 2, VNet 1. That means that they will all have different address spaces. So this could be, production could be the 10.100 network, the 0.0, yeah, plus 16. The 10.200, the 0.0/16 could staging. Then this one could actually be 172.20.0, the 0/16 network. So these are unique addresses or postcodes for the different areas. So development is a different postcode. So this is HA3. This one is Manchester 3. And this one is Luton L117, for example. Do you get it? But they all connect to a central control center, a HQ. And this HQ, they would have all the firewalls and all the advanced security and the anti-spam, anti-spoofing, anti-whatever, all installed here. So they have all the management tools installed here. So the traffic coming from the World Wide Web, they have to come through this wall. So this guy is actually a wall around these guys, yeah? So it looks small, but it's like a wall here, a fake wall around here. So for you to get to this one here, you have to go through this firewall. That's fine. We all know you can control traffic coming inbound. You can control traffic coming inbound. But what if somebody in development is writing a code here and the code could be detrimental to the staging and all the prod? You don't want the traffic there to easily. Guys, hold on a second, please. Thanks. You don't want the traffic to be able to leave, and this is one of the security things you're learning. You don't want traffic, when you don't want traffic from X to be able to go to Y or Z. Why is that? Okay. Somebody has managed to install a virus on a VM here. The virus is looking for a way to affect the whole enterprise. So one, it will scan your network. So it will scan the 172.20.0 for everything in there. And this is 65,536 addresses. Yeah, let's say. So if you had any subnet in here, this compromise can now affect every one of them. Imagine this guy could easily go across here and go here. Then it means that you can go here as well. So what do? You control traffic coming into other environments from your firewall. But why is the firewall important if this firewall can pass the traffic on? Well, the firewall has an intelligence to say this behavior from this VM is unexpected. Okay? It's not been sanctioned by anyone to take place. So firewall says, I have something called intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, is security, IPS and IDS. Then it also has other things that's able to check with AI. Market Firewall is amazing. It has AI. It can check and say this behavior is from a Russian software that we know about on the World Wide Web, because we learned that from something called a Sentinel. And it will say this behavior is something we know about, and so they would block this traffic, and they can force Intune or anything to quarantine this VM. So it's kept in a holding place and say you are not allowed to talk to the network again, because we know your behavior, we know your signatures, we know your behavior. It's unaccepted, and we know your behavior pattern is that of a hacker or a software that is malicious on the internet. And so whenever you design, you have to control the flow of traffic. Okay. Another reason why we will use something like an NVA is sometimes you have, let me show you. Clear.
Yes,
Yeah,
intrusion detection and
prevention.
the other one, intrusion prevention.
Yeah.
What's the S for?
What's the what?
S for IDS, IPS.
Okay, so it's every time that you look at an abbreviation, think of what they're saying. It says intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, and then of course S is all security, right? So intrusion prevention means that if an intruder is coming to attack my network, I'll prevent it. IDS, if it's only IDS turned on, it means I will send you a log of every attempt of intrusion, but I will not stop it.
Yeah, I get that bit, but what's the S? What does the S stand for?
Also, IPS, check online. It could be security,
Oh, okay. I thought. Oh,
intrusion detection, security, on intrusion prevention, security.
oh,
I've forgotten. In fact, I think I've forgotten it. Yes, but it's because you'll find a lot of, we use a lot of jargons. Yeah, but
oh,
in fact, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let's all learn that together. IDS firewall. Let's see what it means. Yeah, intrusion detection system. Yeah,
oh, okay.
system.
Thanks.
Yeah, so system. So system. Yeah, because that system is a firewall and it has intrusion detection. Yeah. So very good. In fact, good question, because it's always good to go and find out what the abbreviation stands for, and sometimes one abbreviation could stand for different things. Like you have this one, DDoS. It's called distributed denial of service. But sometimes you go to play, somebody they just say DOS. They know you should know that it's distributed. But the DOS is also a denial of service. But distributed means it's done in a large scale. Yeah. So, but don't get too worried about um, what it means. Get worried about what it does. So when you're talking about it, you can say, yeah, you got IDS and IPS. Nobody's gonna ask you what does it stand for, because they know you should know. But you can always know it as well. So it's good. So okay, the reason why we use NVA. So I've explained to you that when you have VNets and you pair them, you want to control how traffic flows from east to west. Yeah, east to west is traffic going this way, not going outbound to internet. Yeah, going between the environments this way. So you can prevent worms, malicious activity, and what have you. All right. But when you have a VNet, and let's say you only have one VNet, you don't have the resources to create other VNets in different regions or what have you, you're just paying for one subscription, you're not going to waste too much time. You want to also protect how traffic flows. By default, this private guy will talk to public because they're all in one VNet. So you say, no, I don't want that. So I'm going to put to the region table saying that if you want to talk to public, don't go directly to public. I want you to go through this guy, which, by the way, could be a Cisco firewall. It could be Checkpoint firewall. It could be an Arista. It could be FortiGate. It could be any firewall that is in the world. Yeah. So we call them NVS, Network Virtual Appliance, because an appliance that is it's a network virtual appliance. It's an appliance on the internet in the marketplace of Azure that is able to handle the ability and activities of firewall. So it has all the skill sets that a firewall will have on the natural network. Yeah. So you say, Owen, from private, I don't want the private guys, sandbox guys, to talk to public, because public is production. This is hundreds of thousands of clients. We don't want somebody writing a code here affect this. Yeah. So we say, if you want to go to public, come through this guy. And we can also say, we don't want anything else. We just want only one VM to talk to the public. And so, like over here, instead of saying the subnet, I want the subnet /0/24 to go to let's go to it. Let's go to it. We just go to the right one. Root table. Root table. Okay, let's minimize this for a second. So to private subnet, at the moment I'm saying that to go to private subnet, which is all of this, go via this appliance. But I can also say go to only one machine. So instead of going to the whole subnet, which means any other machine there, I can go to just one. I think we should do that actually. Let's do that. Let me sort out this root first. So go to roots and modify it. So to private subnet, this is from the public root, and the subnets are here. So instead of saying going to the whole network, go to private from where I am right now, go to the whole network. You can say go to Yeah. Guys, hold on a second. Let me turn something off. Okay, so you can specify the VM you want to get to. Yeah. So, for example, I know a VM that is 1.4. I can do that exactly, and I'll say just a VM, not the whole network. That means that traffic flowing from the public network could only go to this particular VM and not everyone else. Yeah. So you can actually be narrow-minded about it. So to sketch it out over here again. Um, yeah. So in this private space, there's this VM.4. So I'm just saying traffic leaving here can come to this subnet, but then you can't go to anything else except this guy. Yeah, and there may be reasons because sometimes there might be a device that sits here that needs to constantly get some data from this device. So you need to create a one-to-one relationship between them. Yeah. Guys, hold on 1 second, please. Hold on. Okay, guys, I'm right back. Okay, so does that answer your question, my dear friend? Do you hear me?
Yeah, that answers the question.
Okay, I should expect some questions from some of the rest of you guys. Any questions, please? Anybody else?
So, Sam, are you saying that we could have a relationship or a link whereby from that virtual machine, it goes straight to a subnet without going through NVA?
Oh yeah, I mean you already have that by default. Any subnets in a VNet can talk to each other by default.
Okay.
By default. I mean, let me just, guys, these are very fundamental things. What is good to ask that question because we need to know it. The default behavior of every VNet. Every VNet has an address space, and it's what, let's say 10.0.0.0/16. But then you have the subnets. But as long as they have this boundary around them, they can talk to each other. Yeah, by default.
Yes. So even if we bring the NVA, what's the essence? I mean,
Good.
if the NVA is there and they still don't go through the NVA but still talk to, then at
Yes.
what point?
Yes. No, you've asked a good question. The NVA, okay, could represent a security device. So you could have a firewall.
Yep.
Or something which is like a traffic inspector. So like a traffic inspector, maybe you got some local environment where they've got policies, so they need to make sure it's PCI compliant. Yeah. You don't want the traffic to leave, for example, this VM and just go straight across. You want it to be inspected, for example, to make sure that it's conforming to the set standards by the government or by the company or by the business, and then allowed on to the destination. Yeah. So to do that, you need to make sure that you create a route because you know by default it will just go. But when you
Yeah.
create a route
Okay.
table, you're now forcing this traffic to use an alternative path,
You're creating a pathway.
a pathway. You create a pathway to a different destination, to a destination. So instead of it using whatever path it has to get there, no, you will use this
Okay.
specific path. You know. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I think these ones you do them, you can read up on it a few more times, but most times NVS are firewalls or
Okay.
DMZ
And
devices.
my second question is that when there's an NVA, what happens to load balancing and also the NSG? I mean, are they nullified in terms of the work they do?
No. So the load balancer is just to represent a service as one. So when you have hundreds of VMs, like we had a skill set, yeah.
Yeah.
The load balancer just needs to have one IP address, which is now mapped on the DNS as maybe Roland.com. So as far as the user is concerned, he just goes to Roland.com on his web browser, and it hits this front-end IP because it goes to DNS registrar, hit the front-end IP, and then it goes to anyone that's available. Yeah, so that would carry on working. But if because the NVA is not applied for this one, but if you want the traffic leaving here to maybe at the business tier to go to the NVA, you can say traffic leaving this guy with private IP address, which is the VMs in backend pool. They should go through this guy here, who may be an internal firewall or internal traffic inspector or a collector, to go through this NVA, a different NVA, before it goes to what? The destination. Because maybe
Okay.
it could be a system checking for viruses coming across the network, and it will check and scan the traffic before it gets across. So there are many applications for it, but I suppose one of the things you can do is read more, or just watch more applications of NVAs on Azure. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question to ask you guys. When you create a brand new VM and you don't give it a public IP address, so there's a 10.0.0.4, and you don't have a public IP address, can you browse to the internet?
No.
Who said no?
Kwame.
Okay, Kwame. Anybody else?
I don't know.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. All right. So let's find the answer, shall we? Let me tell you something. The last time that we were looking at the routes, we saw some things. I'm going to explain to you what they are right now. So let's go to a VM. Let's go to virtual machines, and let's select one of these. Let me turn on so now at the moment, I've turned on the NVA. I've turned off the public. I'm going to turn on the private, and then see if the private can get onto the internet without anything else. There's no public IP address. There's no public IP address that you guys see. So I'm going to go start that VM. And you realize in the lab that they did not connect with SSH or RDP. They used the Bastion. Okay. I need to explain what the Bastion is today, guys. Very important. Very, very important. You need to know this. I'll stick here. So Microsoft realizes that if you have a network and you've got your subnet or what have you, let's say, and you need to connect to a service. A service here could be an environment, it could be a VM or a server or an app from the internet. Microsoft, Cisco's, all those big guys, they do know that always from your home coming to the internet, there are guys here who may be from Budapest. They could even be from the United States of America or Russia or anywhere or China. All they do is they sort of they sniff the internet, yeah. They keep checking what sort of traffic is going across. So they have a bot written in Python. Check for every RDP connection. RDP is port TCP 3389. So this software sits there, checks all the internet traffic. Ooh. Then it says, "Oh, I've seen one. Where is it going? It's going to a destination here." Oh, okay. Can we see the source? The source is here. Can we sort of see if we can guess the password? Because they already see the username you're typing in, yeah? They know. by the password. So they use a tool. It will keep checking, and it finds the password, one of the ones. And then it finds the password. And the first thing it does is, let's also connect to it because you know the username, you know the password. Bang on, they're on. Then when it gets here, they will install viruses, ransomware, and they will affect the whole infrastructure. It's happening to many companies. One that you may know, this company got affected big time with something like that called ransomware, Ryask. Okay, and this is what saved them was they had a data center in Ghana, and the replication had not reached there because they had set it for um, is it like 30 hours, something like that, before it goes to replicate the data in Africa, the exact same copy. And of course, when the ransomware attacked, it wasn't 30 hours, so this didn't go yet. So they flew to Ghana, which is 6 hours. They went to the data center and grabbed the data with some big, large disk, flew back to the UK, and then went in to rebuild the environment. Yeah. So these guys are very dangerous. They can really cause trouble. So Microsoft, knowing this, says, you know what we're going to do is let's take this traffic away from here. And what we're going to do now is Azure is ours. So from Azure itself, we have this secured environment called Bastion. And all you do is write in your Azure portal when you log into Azure with your username, password, MFA. Right there in the web browser in Azure, you cannot connect to any of these VMs securely. Now, nobody on earth can hack this Bastion. You cannot hack it because of the way it's been built. Yeah. So this guy cannot sniff because he doesn't know you're there. And before you doing jumped on, you had a username, password, MFA, okay, and then you're securely assigned your IAM roles, whatever you, to even do the work here. And so these VMs are not exposed to the internet. This guy can get to it, but this guy's from Microsoft straight onto this thing here, all right, to this VM here. So this time you did not connect RDP, so it means they did not open the ports on the inbound rules on the NSG. Neither did you open any ports on the outbound rules on the NSG. You did nothing. You also select Bastion, and Bastion does the management of your VMs for you. And so when you go for an interview and they ask you, okay, they have users who need to connect to these VMs. At the moment they're using RDP. What do you suggest is the best way? You say, tell them RDP is not a best practice at all. You frown upon it. Although people have used it and it's working, it doesn't mean it's safe. And you say, I'm going to use a jump server or a Bastion. So what Azure calls a Bastion really is a jump server. Let me write the words down here. They call Bastion jump. Jump server. Yeah. So always use this Bastion. Now, what it does is, which is amazing, is you don't need to know the password. You don't need to know the username. So you can give this access to somebody who comes in here, and all he does is click on Bastion. La 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 la. He already has a username and a password. Of course, you can show if you want him to show. I'm an admin, so I can do show. But if somebody's on an admin, when I click show, nothing shows. Yeah. Then they go to there's connect settings there. It just says English. Yeah. Then you click on connect, and in a web browser, right where you are, the magic unfolds. Look at how quickly it's running. It's very speedy, and I'm already there in your web browser. And then you have to use MSTSC, then you have to use RDP, remote desktop support, remote desktop connection thing. I didn't have to use any of that. All I did was right from within Azure, connect my Bastion, and now I'm on my VM, which is a secured way of doing it. Do you guys find it a secured way of doing things?
Yeah.
Can you use it to get into like an Ubuntu
Yeah.
server?
Yes,
well?
yes. You can get
Okay.
to anything.
Right.
So now, right, whilst I'm here now, I've got a Chrome installed. Let's see if you see me install my Chrome here, yeah? I'm gonna open my Chrome. I think Chrome is thinking about it today. And I'm going to type, oh yeah, I typed something there yesterday. Okay, so how come I can get to Jesus is Lord? Or let's type Azure Cloud. Why is it working? Because when I go here and I go to the VM itself, it's just public IP, it's this private IP address. So how come it can get to the internet? Let me show you what's going on here. You guys ready for the surprise? When you go here and you go to networking, I'm a network engineer, so anything that's networking, I'm so happy about it. Yeah, you go to the NIC. See, okay, guys, let's see. Oh, Maria is on. What time is it now? She's been waiting for a while. Oh, can you let her on, please?
Yeah.
Okay, Maria, we just saw this. Okay, Maria, you on? Hello.
Yeah, I'm on. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Sorry for being late.
Okay, sure. The video will be ready, so don't you worry too much. Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Okay, I think I should charge you guys money for being late anytime, yeah? I'm only kidding. Yeah, so here we go, Maria. We're talking about by default, any VM you build on Azure without a public IP address can go to the internet. But how is that possible? Let me show you. Azure knows that your VM needs to be able to what? Be updated. Is that true? You guys have Windows updates sometimes, right? Ernest and Henry can say it because they don't do any updates on the Apple. They think it's bulletproof. So you get updates. Okay, so Microsoft knows that your VM needs to update it. So what they've done is by default, without even a public IP address, which you would normally create a standard one for, you can go to the internet. Okay, let me show you how. Last time we looked at this NIC card and we looked at effective routes or effective routes for those of you who are in the United Kingdom. So in effective routes, Microsoft gives you system routes, which is interesting. I'm going to show you a little bit more here. Now, the last time we looked at it, I said focus your mind on your subnets. Okay, focus your mind on the internet. Leave all these things alone, and any other routes like ones we design ourselves. Let's see. Anything else that's there, that's like a route table, which is called a user-defined route name, UDR. Then you pay attention to that. But what I didn't tell you is that all these things you see here, okay, all these other things you see here are for Microsoft. Some of them do things like DNS. Some of them do different things, okay? And so your VM knows about all these routes. You remember the last one, I sketched a guy in the middle here, and he needed to get out. So your VM is this guy. He knows that to get to 198, you need to go that way. To get to 172.16, well, we know that network already, right? To get to 127, which is itself, to get to 40, to get to 20.235. But what are these? So these are all things undergirding your VM. So your VM sits here. You've got your wire here, and the wire is attached to Azure's big network. So there's a whole Azure network. Okay, so when you log into Azure, you all you get carries you got the 10.10.0.4 VM ID or IP address IP. But later, did you know that because this VM knows about all these routes, they can use this route to get to what? Yahoo, Google, internet. So you don't have to worry about how do I get internet. By default, you can get to the internet. But the internet cannot get to you because there's no way of getting to you. To get to you, what you need is buy yourself a public IP address, PIP. Yeah? Associate that to your VM. Then traffic from the internet can come through here.
So the public IP is only for entry.
for inbound
Into inbound.
ingress. Of course, the public IP address by default will be the default for exit as well. Once you have it, you can go, you can do both. Yeah. But if you don't have public IP address, you can always exit and go to internet and do stuff. Yeah. And this works brilliantly on all those VMs, the Windows VM especially. I've not checked for Linux, but I should expect them to be the same. Yeah. So let me just go to this VM that we have opened on our Bastion, and I'm going to show you how to see this. So I'm here. I'm going to clear my screen. CMD. ipconfig /all. I'm just saying, give me everything you know about the network. There you go. So it tells me that it knows about DNS. This is how the internet works. Yeah. 168.63.129.16. Yeah. This is just the DNS. It knows the name of my machine as that. Azure has saved the name of machine as this, although it is corporate AZU. Yeah, Azure saved as this on the internal cloud app. Okay, then it has DSP server. So whatever gives the IP address to this VM to work, this is the guy responsible for that. You can see he sits in the same network, 168.63.129.16, the same machine. Yeah, and then of course this is the VM's own IP address. Yeah, so the VM knows that if I want to get to the internet, I give my traffic to this guy, and this guy goes across to the internet for me. So let's see, clear that, and then let me just see if I can do interesting thing. NS lookup debug. I want to see how to get to Amazon.co.uk. Yeah, it tells me that I can. So it tells you the whole journey from where you are. Okay. So it starts from the top here. By the way, play with that command. Okay. Just it's quite big, but it's an important one for finding out if internet is working. It's saying find out about this VM that I'm on, and look for Amazon.co.uk from this machine. It says I'll give it to Azure Private DNS Network. Okay, then the Private DNS Network will check Amazon.co.uk. All right, and it will find it later on after doing a little fancy stuff, and it will find it and tell you, oh, okay, we can see that Azure Private DNS has a knowledge of Amazon.co.uk as this 128.236.7220.54.239, like that. Then finally will give you the important ones. So VMs by default have access to the internet. If anyone tells you does a VM by default can get to internet, you tell them yes, it can, and I can prove it to you. All right. So this is how it works really. All right.
What was the command again?
Oh, okay. NS lookup. Let me write it big. So write it big. Debug, and then you write the name of the domain. So I'll just say domain.com or IP address. You got it?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay. So something new to know, right? So your VMs can talk, so you can do updates without worrying about public IP addresses. Okay. Only do it if you need traffic to come in inbound. or you need to get access to the VM. But if you don't need access to the VM any other way, you can securely create an environment and log in and do your work without much exposure to the internet. All right?
Okay, I thought you needed public IP address to get on the internet, since I thought you go in public. I was thinking in a different direction.
No, it's still correct. But the thing is, by default, Microsoft gives you access to the internet. But if you want to specifically force traffic the other way around, you can do it with a public IP address, for example.
Okay.
But the only caveat, or the only difference is when you put VMs behind a load balancer, they are no longer able to go to the internet by default. No longer. Because now all of a sudden, I will say, okay, you put in load balancer, means you can define, you want to define how traffic flows ingress and how traffic flows egress. So egress is outbound, ingress is what? Inbound. So the moment you put a load balancer there, this VMs will no longer go to the internet again. And that's why the last time we had to create what? Load balancing rule for the front, what do you call it? Outbound load balancing rules, right? Go through this guy again to get out. So that's the only change, that's the only difference. But a VM on its own, without any complications, without any attachments, associations, can go to the internet for sure. Yeah, so that's a tip there. So when you're creating resources, always look at the best practices, see what is already available so you don't overcommit. Because public IP addresses, they're not cheap. You're paying for them. So why do you want to get that just because of internet? If that's just all you want to do, then by default this guy can do it. Right? Because this, by the way, it's a cloud stuff. It sits on a cloud somewhere. So you have to go to the clouds. Yeah. All right. I think that's more than enough. All right. Any questions, Maria? Since you joined us, any questions from your the projects?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. All right. So guys, let's go. From now on, we should be focusing a lot on security. I'm going to show you a couple of things, and I'm going to take it from the top again. The first thing we did really was to deal with role definitions, RDs. What do you call these guys here? Question mark. What does it stand for?
Security principle.
Sec principle, yeah. SP, yeah. So this is a secured way of what? Ensuring that whoever says they're going to work for you or work in the company is identified as somebody you know, somebody who has a username and password, has an MFA, and of course you assign them the relevant rights or permissions to do things on the relevant resources. And of course, the scope is entirely up to you. If you wanted to have the resource group or the resources or things like the VNets or the VMs, it's entirely up to you. But you have to always plan that correctly. But then VM, the smallest units of your infrastructure, VM, virtual machine. When you create a VM, and so the funny thing is, we've done everything, yeah. But we have to circle back, and now with what you've learned from VMs, you have to learn how to harden it, yeah. So, guys, don't think too far away. Your VM is just like your home laptop. Emmanuel, can you tell me what software you have in your laptop to protect your laptop? Can anyone tell me what they have in their laptops to protect their laptops?
I've got Windows Defender.
Perfect. WD, you got Windows Defender. Okay, so that is almost like it is anti-malware, antivirus. these days, that's antivirus as well. Yeah. Anybody else? Owen, what would you have on your machine?
AVG.
AVG. So let's assume AVG, Windows Defender, or AV is antivirus. Yeah. But what else would you have on your machine?
Norton 360.
Okay. I would just say that's all antivirus. Let's go to something else. So I would just say host-based firewalls. So you know Windows Firewall? Ernest, I know you don't have Windows Firewall, but you tell me, what do you have?
Singapore MacBook protect yourself.
Yeah, and I suppose you believe that.
Yeah, my book doesn't have any antivirus to protect it. It protects it, has its own way of working.
No, but there's something.
Okay.
They have something still, but I forgot. I had
No,
one
no,
of mine. But I think you have to
I've worked
pay.
on Macs a lot for industry. For some, we always have antivirus reinstalled on them. People don't do it because Apple tells them the biggest lie ever: we're unhackable, we are not prone to viruses. It's all a lie. They suffer in
Yeah,
silence.
there's one on there, but I think that you have to pay. It kept giving me notification, then I took it off.
Yes. Okay, but then for you to understand security, one important thing for you guys to understand is take something and learn the anatomy of it. Okay. Now VM has what? RAM. We know that, don't we? It has a CPU. We know that, right? What else has it got?
Nick.
Yes.
Okay, so Maria this time has changed her mind. She's gone disk, and Kwame has gone Nick. Okay,
And OS.
it's got operating system. Anybody else?
RG.
Resource group? No, it hasn't got resource group. It sits in a resource group. What has it got personally?
Okay. IP.
It's got an IP address. Okay, so that's a Nick really. Okay, Alvin, have we heard from you?
We
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. I know you don't know. CPU, disk, OS. Now,
Firewall.
okay. Is that a physical component that connects to the VM?
No.
No. So just think of your computer. You would just your normal Windows machine, yeah. You have your. When it comes to security, think of the physical components: RAM, CPU, disk. What can easily get corrupted?
Disk.
Disk. And what does a disk contain?
Storage.
And data. This contains what? Your operating system and data, most times, yeah? Now, by default, when you spin up a VM in Azure, you're given a disk. So let's see if that's true. Let's go and see our private VM now and have a look. Guys, I'm going to teach you security in a way that you've never learned, yeah? But then wherever you go, it doesn't matter what it is, tell them someone says you can do it. Yes, you can. All right, let's go to this VM. And let's close this chunky thing here. Go back to this VM again. Okay, now can somebody take a okay? Let me take a screenshot of this. I want it to be on the platform before I move on. By the way, guys, are you making use of these screenshots because it's going to be good for your revisions? Yeah, very very important. Yeah. You guys there? You gone home?
Yeah, we are there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what you see physically is the disk. Of course, the CPU and the RAM are all there. But CPUs and RAMs are not known to what? They don't get attacked by anyone. Well, they do, because in the end, when they attack your VM, your CPU will get overwhelmed and your RAM would also get exhausted. Yeah. But that is not the immediate risk. The immediate risk is any corruption or attack on your disk, because this contains what? Your operating system, which is your Windows or your Linux, or for some who love Mac OS. But then it also contains data.
Data.
This is so crucial. And so the last time we said to you that to preserve the data on your Windows VMs or Linux VMs, backup. When you're backing up, which is this guy here, what you're really doing is you're backing up the VM, really, you're backing up the disk. Yeah? That's all you're doing. So for security, one of the things you should have is a backup for disk. So when you back up the VM, really, it's backing up the configuration. Configuration makes up the disk. So sorry, make up the VM. So the VM has a name. Let's clear that. The configuration file, which is this guy here, JSON. Let me just go there. It's good to show you guys. So without even thinking too much, here we go. We've got the size. We got the operating system, Windows Server 2019, second generation. We've got premium, the storage. It says LRS, locally redundant storage. Yeah, tells you the location of the storage account type, for example, and then username, of course, and then network interfaces and what have you. So this configuration file, when you're backing up a VM, oh come on, here we go. When you're backing up a VM, and you click on backup, it's backing up your NIC, backing up your size, and the configuration. What else is backing up? Your disk. Of course, the disk contains your operating system. It backs up the name of the VM and anything else the VM has at that time of the backup. So when you talk about security, don't get overwhelmed. Backup is one of your best security practices. Every VM must have a backup, but every VM must also have antivirus, because you want to protect the VM against attacks, right? So Microsoft has something called Cloud Defender, because earlier on, Emmanuel was saying he uses Windows Defender. So they also have Azure Cloud Defender, so ACD, for example. So if you install Azure Cloud Defender, which is something you can enable here, you see it here, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. When you enable that, and this is just for you to learn because you don't need to worry too much about this, but when you enable this, you can enable it to affect your subnet. So that whatever whatever VMs you put in the subnet, automatically this will install an agent, which is the antivirus, and the VMs are protected from what? Viruses. But then you also need to make sure you've enabled what? Backup. So you can also create a backup policy saying that whenever a VM is built, automatically it's added to backup policy. Yeah. And then disaster recovery, meaning that if something happens to this availability zone, which happens to be East US, do we have a way of restoring our VM anywhere else? Yes. If you got a backup going to West US, you can go there and rebuild a VM with a configuration that's been backed up, and then just connect people to it. Yeah. And because you're using a load balancer, which sits in 3 different zones, zone 1, 2, and 3, because this zone is out, it doesn't matter. You can still get to your load balancer. It will still get to the VM, and it will carry on working. Yeah. So that's one. But one thing that people don't know, and people don't use a lot, is when you have a disk, you need to encrypt the disk. What word is this, guys?
Encrypt.
It's a reason why I'm asking, because this is a very important keyword you use for interviews. We'll talk of
Encryption.
encryption. Yes, encrypt. Now, what really is encryption? Let me just sketch what I thought about when I was thinking of this course today. Encryption is simply this. you've got a box, and the box has this thing here. It has this blue content, right? Do you all agree it has blue content?
Yeah.
Okay. So to encrypt this, all you're saying is, by default, when anyone comes here and views this disk, they can see the blue content. So when you encrypt it, what you're doing is you are going to make it in such a way that when they come, all they see is this. So now it's seeing straight lines, yeah? All they see is this. And 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 black destroys everything. Question for you guys. Is the disk still there?
Yeah.
Is the blue content still there?
Yes.
But what has happened to get into blue content?
It's been covered with other colors. You scribbled it.
Good. So this is a disk, yeah? So what I've done is the contents in this disk has been layered with levels of security that cannot be what? Broken by anyone. The content is still there, but you cannot read it. If you got a disk, for example, and you put it in your computer, for example, you cannot read the contents because we put layers on it to make sure that you cannot read this content. So if you encrypt something, you have to what? Decrypt it in order to be able to read it. Yeah. Now to decrypt this, what I need to do is I need to have a key. You know, let me. In fact, I'm happy about this. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Let me show you. When I do party, party jam, run party jam. Let's do party jam. I need to show you this. I think that's the closest I can do. I'm about to generate a key. Yeah, I'm showing you this principle. When I click generate, it's going to tell me to move my mouse around. And when I move my mouse around, it creates this key. Now, let me just do generate again. If I don't move it, it's going to sit there, and tell me, well, you're not doing anything else. I can create one for you, but it's not going to be secured. Let me go ahead and start moving my mouse. Then it creates this advanced key. Now, the only person who has this key, the person who has this key is the only person who can decrypt it, right? And that's why when they create encryption, they create something called encryption keys. And these keys for the encryption are stored in Azure's Key Vault. So Azure's Key Vault, it stores the keys that was used to encrypt. You know, these keys, yeah? It stores them securely in this Key Vault, and it says this is for this disk for VM what? VM1, for example. So we know for this disk supporting VM1 is attached to VM1, but then it's encrypted. But for us to decrypt it, I need to use the same key that I've stored somewhere, and I can decrypt this data, and then I can give it to Maria to use, and she's smiling. What Azure does, which is quite interesting, is Azure puts a key in the key vault, but they also encrypt a key again. So it's called Azure Key Encryption key, like I think it's called AKEK or AKKEK, something like that. So not only have they secured your VM, but if anyone had the key here, they can go ahead without authorization to go and decrypt. So what they've done is they've also encrypted your key, so that if there's a compromise, they still can't get to you. Yeah. So whenever you have a VM, always think of encryption. The tool they use for encryption, when it's a Linux one, they use something called DMCrypt. So when you go for interview, you say, "Oh yeah, in Linux, we've used DMCrypt," but you've worked most times in Windows environment, and in a Windows environment, you've used BitLocker. Who has heard of this BitLocker before?
I've heard it, the name before.
Yeah. So BitLocker actually is used at the moment on every Windows machine, Windows server. You can actually encrypt your whole disk. Yeah. And so that means that if anybody got your machine, it will ask them for a password before they can even go to the operating system. Enter your password. And if they enter the password wrong, it will wipe the whole data on the machine. Yeah. Apple doesn't have it because they say they're secured. Yeah. And there's nothing on the machines there. So sorry, Apple, you don't get encrypted. Okay, so encryption is important for your VM. Of course, to secure it as well, you have your antivirus, AVs. What else do you have? Of course, I would also put a lock. You guys remember a lock from the beginning? We talked about a lock quickly.
Yeah.
All right. And to do that, really, it's simple. So with a lock, it's easy. Your finger's here. You go to locks. And what I is so nice. Click on add, give the lock name, and say delete. So nobody can delete it, or put it for read only. And then when somebody tries to delete it, it will say, sorry, there's a lock on here. Yeah, I don't know if I put it on now, I can't delete the VM. I don't want that. I want to delete the VM when I'm ready here. So use it carefully. Yeah. And then of course, when you're connecting to VMs securely, use our friend. I really want to take a screenshot of this. Okay, can we decrypt this? There you go, guys. Did you see how we got it decrypted? All I did was with my decryptor, I went boom, and then I'm get back on the blue. Yeah. So let me just take a screenshot of encryption and decryption. So this is decryption, and then the other one is encryption. Okay, so clear this and go back. Now, when I come over here, so how do we encrypt our disk? All right, let's do it. When you go to your disk, this is your disk. With Azure, you can always click into it. Now, when you come here, without much thinking, you just look for settings, right? And you find encryption. Go ahead, click on encryption. Then it tells you Azure offers server-side encryption with platform managed keys by default for managed disk. Okay, one thing I should tell you is when you have a disk, Azure already is performing some encryptions. Okay, it's called encryption at rest. So data on your disk itself cannot be touched by anybody else. But you can actually encrypt your whole disk yourself. Yeah. So to do that, you would normally come here and then do encryption with key. Now, of course, the VM is running now. Let's go to another VM that's not running and see if we can do it from there. I doubt that's the case, but when you're building a VM, there's a place that says basic encryption. Did you guys see when you build a VM?
Yeah.
Yeah. So encryption. Perfect. So the other one is turned on. Of course, you can't encrypt something that's turned on. That's why I'll come to this of turned off one here. So when you come here now, you can now do, okay, I want to encrypt at rest. At rest here means that when data now is written and it comes to the disk itself in the VM, whilst it's the VM on the disk itself, encrypt it. But what about data in travel or in transit? I'm using the word as well, in transit. If data, and Owen, you can help me here. You got a VM and you got some files on here. And you're copying the files to this VM here. Do you want the files coming through here to be encrypted, or you only want to encrypt it when it gets here? What is the safest way and most secured way to do it?
Encrypted on the way there, as well
Yes.
as
It's, yeah, encrypted both ways. So on its way and at rest. But the least you can do is encryption at rest. You see, the default, by the way, guys, for your exams, the default is always encryption at rest with a platform managed key. So this key, platform means Azure. The key, you don't touch it. It's created for you. Okay? You don't see it, but it's there somewhere in something called Azure Key Vault. Okay? And it's encrypted at rest. But you can say, I want to encrypt at rest with my own keys. It will be very foolish to do that because you have to find a way to manage your own keys. So you put yourself under pressure. Yeah. But some people like to do it that way. So if they have the tools to do it, it's good for them. But double encryption, what platform managed and custom managed keys. So double encryption with platform managed. So you're using Azure keys and your own keys if you want to. Yeah. So Azure says not the right thing to do. You know, allow us to do the job for you. But if you want to do the job, we do some for you and still want to do it yourself, choose this one. Or only use your own keys. So let's say, for example, we don't do that. We want to encrypt by default. It's already done by default. This is already encrypted. But let's say we wanted to use this one here. It will now tell me disk encryption sets. A disk encryption set stores the customer key that the disk or snapshot will use for encrypting its data. So you need to put a set somewhere. That means you have to go and learn about sets and build it. Guys, stay away from all this hassle, all right? Because it's not sustainable. Stick with what works. Microsoft says it's encrypted, all right, completely at rest. Okay. When it comes to encryption on the data side, traveling across, when data is traveling across the wire, if you use traffic that's going across the wire, let's say it's SMB or WebDAV, Microsoft uses their own advanced encryption along the way. Yeah. So use the right protocols, and then your files will be encrypted all the way till it gets here. You know, by default, your files are always encrypted here, the data. Yeah. Or let's say the disk. But then something else about this that's quite interesting. We are still talking security here, are we? Yes, we are. Of course, from over here, you can export a disk. I've done this once. I don't think I'll do it again because some disks are very large. When I click here, you can export this disk and go and scan it in a tool. I'm just going to generate a URL. And then when I give the URL to somebody like, what's his name? Like Owen, for example, he can download this VM, download the whole VM. You see this URL, copy that. I'm going to put it somewhere. So it creates what? A key, just like we did with our, what do we do? We did it with our storage accounts, right? Yes, it creates a key, and then the key is embedded here somewhere, the signature. And then with that information, you can now download this VM as a file that you can run on your Windows, something called Hyper-V or something like that. Yeah. All right. And or you can also import that later on to Azure somewhere else. You only do this very rarely. You don't. But if they tell you do it for them, you just know. Click on disk, come to disk export, and you're good to go.
is the file you download encrypted as well?
Yes, it's encrypted. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely encrypted. So that means that if you don't have the right tools, or you're not given this privilege to have this signed, forget it. You won't get anywhere. Yeah, that's the whole point of it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And of course, networking is, let's have a look. You can come here and see stuff you can do here. Now it's saying that you can enable public access from all networks, or you can disable stuff. Yeah. At the moment, this is the disk. It's advertised as a cloud app, and it says by default it's enabled public access from all networks. If I look here, it says allow access to your disk or snapshot. When public network access is disabled, the public endpoint on this disk or snapshot will not be accessible, and only private endpoint connections can be used for access. So if you disable this public access, it means you cannot log into this machine and change things on this disk. At the moment, you log in from the internet, right? Yeah, so this disk is there, but it's also an internet device, for example. Then you can go to properties and look at a few things about this VM. Yeah. But let's go to something very interesting about your disk. Maybe this disk could not be good. I need to spin a new disk and we can do it. Let's go here. Okay, that's good. This disk will still do it. Overview is what I was looking for. You can create a snapshot. What is a snapshot? Who knows what a snapshot is?
Like a backup.
So when you take a copy,
Okay, so it's like a backup copy of the VM at a point in time. What time is it now? It's 21:54. Yeah. At 21:54, my disk was, let's say, 20 gigs used. Yeah. And the last file I wrote was hello world .html, for example. So 21:54, I can come and click on create snapshot. And let me click that for you guys. This is all part of your security learning. Yeah. Create snapshot, and it will create a snapshot that you can use to rebuild a VM in the future. If the VM failed you, you can come here and you can saw that earlier. It says if you had a snapshot, you can create a VM, you see, from the snapshots. So let's just go ahead and create one. This VM is quite big, 127. Let's see if I can do something. Let's see the process really. Create a snapshot. And it tells you, what do you want to call the snapshot? Okay. I want to call it my VM name. So Corporation Azure NEU. Now I'm worried here because when it's something to do with disk, sometimes they don't like hyphens. Yeah, I'll call it. This one was a DMZ, right? So it's a public. So it's a public snapshot. Yeah. So it says okay. So it allows it. So it's what you want to create a snapshot type. What is snapshot type? You can learn the types here. Full. Make a complete read-only copy of the yes, and the copy it creates is read-only. So nobody can go and take it and start playing games with it, okay? Or take the files from it. It's read only. Incremental means you already have a full backup of your disk. And at this point, I'd use 20 gigs, which is about, let's say, 10% of your disk completely, yeah? 10% of 2000, let's say 2 terabytes. Yeah? It's 20 gigs. But then later on, that's a full snapshot of your whole disk, and you've only used 20%. Later on, you add another 5% on the disk. So later on, you come and say, I want to create an incremental, because it's incremental means when it's increasing, I'm adding on top of it, because this will not change. But the other changes that's happening, I want to add onto the disk. Yeah. So you come and you do incremental. So I added X, I added Y, I added J the last time. Well, that J looks interesting. Whatever that is. I added Y again. Okay, YX. I added B. So this disk all the way till it gets to the 2 gigs, 2 terabytes. Incrementally, as the files are being added and being removed, you want to keep copies of that increments. Yes. Now, it will be very foolish for us to do incremental right now because we don't even have a full copy of our disk yet, do we? Are you guys there? Are you going home?
Yep.
Yeah, we are here. Yeah, we don't have the
Okay. And then
snapshot yet.
the storage type is asking you, what is it? Standard HDD, premium SSD, out always goes on redundant. Why? What's the benefit of that? Because it means that the storage is the copies of the storage is stored in different zones. Yeah. So if there was a failure in East US 2, doesn't matter. I can still get it from somewhere else. Then you see the wisdom here. Go to encryption. Do you want to encrypt it right now, even as you backing up? You say, of course, yes. So whatever state the disk was in before, you're going to mimic that exactly. It's a replica of your disk. You come here and say yes, and then go networking. What do you want to do? Do you want to have access to it? I said, no, I don't want access to the disk from public at the moment. Okay. I only want to disable public and private. I want to disable public access and enable private access. I want only access from a VNet, yeah, to this or a subnet from to this disk, not anywhere else. Until up to you. Clear that? You come here and select that. They don't ask you. Disk access. You can associate your managed disk with a disk access resource. Who do you want to connect to this disk? Yeah, so you can create a new disk access. Before I do that, let's go. Okay, let me just, can I go back? Oh, Microsoft. Let's see if I can do close. Okay, perfect. Disk access. Select an existing or create a new disk access resource. What do you want to use to access this disk when you saved it as a snapshot? The disk access must be in the same subscription and region as a disk. So I'll create a new one. I'll say, I want to be able to access this disk from this. And I'll say, interesting, blah, 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 blah. And then say, okay, you want to access this disk from here. All right. It's a secured way of getting access to the disk. But guys, I'll be honest with you, nobody does it. But for security, you should mention that, yes, you need to control the disk access to your snapshots. You know, oh, hang on. No, don't discard. Close that. Yeah. So I just want to say enable that for now and go tax and go create. So basics, create a snapshot, give it a name. So this is the first one. So I can call this one full snapshot. Yeah. Which makes a complete read-only copy of the disk that we've selected now, which is that disk that we selected earlier. This disk, yeah. And then I can go to encryption and say use the default networking. Come on, where are you? So look at this, enabling public access from all networks. Let me just zoom a bit so that you guys can see it well. It's better you can see it. All right, let's read it together. So enabling public access from all networks might make this resource available publicly. Now, in security, always say when they ask you questions is always avoid things coming from the internet. Yeah. So you're creating this snapshot as a disk here. And if you expose it publicly, it means all of a sudden this one has a URL. It means anybody can get to it. So Microsoft says enabling public access from all networks might make this resource available. So say, in fact, the best practice really will be disable public access and only enable private access. If you want to pass any exam in Azure, their best answers would always be private access. Anything public, frown. And even if you don't know the answer, anything that said private access will always be correct. Yes. So public access is frowned upon. Only use public access if you need to. But if it's a snapshot, I don't want public access. I want people to be able to get to it only from the specified resource. Yeah. But for now, you can put enable public access so you can log in there and do stuff. Yeah. So This is it. You can create a snapshot if you want for free. Play with it if you want. I'm not gonna bother. But at least you know it's there, yeah? You know how to create encryption. It's all click, 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 and try. Click, 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 and try. By default, Microsoft already encrypts your data at rest. Rest means when it's stored on your disk, yeah? Yeah, by default. Not in transit, but at rest. Okay. All right. And then what else? What else is there? This is all the things to do with your VM. I've talked about having antivirus like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which by the way, you can there's also a different game completely. So it's gonna tell you the state of your VMs, what's happening to them, are they healthy? You know, you can actually see what's happening to your VMs with sensitive data people are using, firewalls in your environment. So it's good to go to this Microsoft Defender for Cloud and see what's available from time to time. Yeah, you can see security alerts. If we had enabled, you see a lot of things here, fun stuff. But none of these things are there. Yeah. All right. So that's VMs for you. Storage accounts. Any questions anyway, guys, before I go to I want to use one example that you would always apply to anything that you do. Apply this example and you're good to go. All right, let's go. Any questions, guys? Okay, let's do a roll call because everybody's gone quiet.
Not so
let's-
far.
All right. For Maria, Maria, are you speaking for the whole class or
Sorry.
are you speaking for
Yeah,
the class?
Yeah, I'm all
Even
good so
what?
far as well.
Okay. All right, no questions so far. Okay, I'm going to use one resource to explain how you secure anything in Azure. And I think one of the resources that's easier, I don't know how quickly I can build that. Okay, we still got about half an hour. Henry, are you good for us to go on?
Yeah, I'm okay. Go on.
What's amusing, Henry? What's funny?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay.
You are. What about Ernest?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. All right, Kwame, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, let me have a look at the app services. Maybe I'm looking for one resource because, guys, I could explore hundreds of resources, but it'd be wasting your time. You need to understand the concept, all right? I'm going to build this resource I know about that's pretty quick, maybe to build, and then I'll show you how to secure it. So whatever resource there is on Azure, by default, you can enable access to it from the public internet. Well, you are already public yourself. But what if you have a disk here? Last time you were mounting a disk, right? This disk only needs, there's a disk here, this blob here, yeah? It only needs access by this VM. So this VM needs to have this disk attached to it as what, a mount or a volume. So although it's a storage account, you don't need a storage account to have access from the outside because it only needs to speak to this VM as what? A storage account. So what you do is you say storage account, you're not allowed access from the outside in, but you're only allowed access from this subnet that this VM sits in. You get it? So storage account here, VM here, storage account maybe sitting somewhere here, no problem. VM is here. VM needs to do the PowerShell or the bash to do the mounts. You remember the mount we did last time, NFS share, SMB shares, NFS on the VM. This storage account is provided by Azure, and you can also access the storage account from your home computer or anywhere else. I don't want that. So what do? I say, I only want this storage account to speak to this subnet because VMs here needs to be able to write to disk, this storage account. Yeah. So let's demonstrate one very quickly. Any questions there before I crack on with that? Storage accounts, storage accounts. So I'm gonna go storage accounts, and every one of you knows how to do this right now, but this is a quick refresher for us. resource group, I'm gonna stick here. So it tells you it's already one container, yeah. And storage account name, you cannot hyphenate them. So you're just gonna say private only storage resource. The field can contain only lowercase letters and numbers. Okay, 24. What did I do wrong? Yeah, storage account names are so annoying. I must be honest with you. Let me know. Let me know. Use the word private only. Let me just say ECM. Okay, corporation storage account. Too long, maybe. Okay, I think it was a length. It was too long. Okay, the location at the moment is East US. I think it was East US 2. That's where my things are. Is it true? Where am I? How do I know? VMs location. It's always at the top here. East US 2. So that's good. So you see, I'm putting my storage account in East US 2 because why would I want to put it somewhere else? That has to go across the internet before it gets to me. East US 2. Okay, I'm just going standard, nothing special. Redundant, it's okay, fine. Advanced, nothing special here, but then my focus will be networking. Now, in networking, and by the way, most of the security that you would learn about will be from networking because that's how people access resources, right? So it says enable public access from all networks, but that's the default. By default, you can get to storage accounts by default, yeah. By default, you can get that, but we don't deal with defaults when you know our design. Our design is I've got a VM here in subnet X. So this VM sits in subnet X. I've got a storage account in my resource group. Okay, so we're all in one bucket here. All I need this storage account to do is to become a secondary storage for my VM. So let's say this VM, that VM, that VM. Okay, but I don't want access to the internet because, of course, it means that if anyone can get to it, they can mess this up. So what do? I get rid of this internet access, and I just say, you this storage account, you only allowed access to this subnet, which is this big subnet here. So you only allowed access to this subnet, okay? Nowhere else. So you go here and say disable public access and only use what? Private access. It also says you can also enable public access from selected virtual networks and IP addresses. People do that as well because sometimes you have the storage account and maybe you have a server in your company somewhere, in an office somewhere, which you need to get the files from your server across to the storage account, which also goes to VMs. So then you use this second option. I'll bring it closer. Yeah, second option. So that is viable as well, as long as you have an instance. Let's say you have a virtual machine or a PC or something in your office somewhere. So in a hybrid setup, you got a physical server somewhere. You got guys working for you and they're churning data. And the data needs to go across into this storage account. Then you say, I'm going to enable public access from a selected virtual network and IP address. Yeah. So you can do that. Click here. How can I click? 1 second, guys. And then it'll tell you which virtual network do you want access to. You say, okay, I want this East US virtual network, and I want only the DMZ. Yes, DMZ to what? Talk to that storage account, nothing else. Or I just want the Bastion subnet, or I just want the private subnet. So let's say private subnet, for example, alone. You see the power? So now you can control which of these subnets, these beautiful guys. From this storage account, you can control which of these subnets can talk to it. Yeah.
So that
So
means nothing outside of that subnet can
can talk to this. Yeah.
store stuff into the storage.
No, they
account.
can't. It will just say it will deny them.
Right.
But you can also allow the whole, because maybe let's say you have a replica set or VM skill set in a big subnet, and there are thousands of them, and they all need to write to a storage account somewhere. Yeah, you can say the whole subnet. So it's entirely up to your design. So always find out what they're using it for. Ask the questions. Okay, how many VMs need to speak to this storage account? You say, oh, all of them. Okay. Which subnet are they? Oh, some of them in prod, subnet 1, subnet X. Okay, then in that case, we're going to allow subnet X, subnet Y, subnet Z, blah blah. Yeah. So you can do that. So you just do that by coming here. Let's manage the subnets. You just take the subnet you want. Come on, be yourself. And then you're good to go. So it's selected all these. Yeah. And it says one or more subnets you have selected require a Microsoft storage endpoint to be added. Service traffic utilizing these subnets may be interrupted temporarily. So you're just saying that I think there is the Azure Bastion. It's public, so it needs Microsoft endpoint to be added. Yeah. So I think you'll do that for all of them anyway. But let's see. Let's just select one. DMZ is there. When I say DMZ away, is there. So every one of them, it will use an endpoint. Yeah. So which one do we use? Let's do private, because a private subnet is what we needed to talk to the storage account. Then it says, how do you want the routing? Do you want things to go through the internet routing or Microsoft? Well, I don't trust internet routing because it's not protected. Anyone can be on it. I just want it to be Microsoft network routing. Yeah. Protection now. How many copies do you want to keep? Do you want to retain how many days do you want to retain these storage accounts when you delete them? I don't care. A moment. And encryption. Once again, here comes encryption. It says Microsoft Managed Keys, MMK, or customer. Well, I'm not going to build an infrastructure for this. Microsoft can do the job. All right. Now, enable support for customer managed keys, blobs and files only. Enable encryption, infrastructure encryption. By default, Azure encrypts storage accounts data at rest. Guys, data at rest by default is encrypted. That's a key for your exams. Anytime you see anything at rest, but is by default, okay? Infrastructure encryption adds a second layer of encryption to your storage accounts. So you see, how do you further secure your encryption, secure your storage? You say, yeah, add infrastructure encryption. That's easy. This option cannot be changed after the storage account is created. We don't need that now because we're not doing that. But you know it's there, right? Go next. Tax, review, and create. I'm going to go networking now. See, the only network I allowed was the private subnets. Yeah. So I'm going to create this now. And then when I go into the public subnets and I try to add the, what do you call it? I try to add the NFS share. It shouldn't work because we've blocked access to it from that point, haven't we? Yes, we have.
With the keys, the Microsoft managed and the customer managed keys, for the purpose of the exam, are the Microsoft managed keys secure enough
Yeah.
for us to be? They're the ones we should use.
Yes. It's Microsoft wants you to believe that they're the best, and of course they're the best. What they've done, they've achieved in the last 40 years, in the last 20 years especially, they've achieved a lot of great good things. So there's something here called a key vault, which we'll talk about at some point. I think that's going to be the key vault. No, just read a little bit about it. crazy. I thought I was going to use something. So safeguard cryptographic keys and other secrets used by cloud apps and services. The Key Vault does that. It's great. You know, sometimes you write a software and you have passwords in it for doing different things. Yes, you don't want to store them in configurations and stuff like that. You want to store them securely somewhere. Say the Key Vault does that job for you. Yeah, so definitely, I'll just create one and see. Just a quick one. Just a quick one. Oh, hold on, subscription is wrong. And I'm just gonna call it Corporation Key Vault. East US2 standard, and this one might cost me very quickly. how you want to delete like keys and what have you? How long should you keep it before it deletes completely? You say 90 days. All right. Enable access for what? Azure Virtual Machines for deployment? Yes. You want Azure Machines to be able to get to it. That's Azure Disk Encryption for volume encryption? Yes. And then permission model. What do you want to use? Role-based access control or vault access policy? I can use role-based access control, for example. It says who needs access to it. Key permissions. Someone has about 12 things I can do. I can get, I can list, I can update, I can create, I can import, I can delete, recover, backup, and restore. Yeah. And I've got these secrets and the certificate permissions. So these are all permissions I can do with certificates as well. I can manage certificates, I can list certificates. So you can actually create certificates here for your applications all the way here. Networking. Once again, what does it say? Allow all networks to get to it. Yes, why not? Because I want everything that needs to use the Key Vault to get to it. Tax, review, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if the other one is ready. Storage accounts. Okay, that's done. Yeah. Key Vault almost ready. It's running validation. I don't know how long it takes to build it, but let's create one before the money runs out. So, okay, here we are. We said that the only person who can talk to this network here, this storage account, is who? Private subnet, right? So when you come here, you can go to security and see what it's talking about. You see, it took you straight to Microsoft Defender because it knows it's storage. So you want to install agents on the storage or on all your VMs? You can do that from here. But this Defender thing, I would want you guys to explore it. Just have a look at what it looks like and read a little bit about it. But you don't need to go and install anything there. So like it says, install agents. I can go ahead and install agents on the VMs. Oh, it selected the wrong subscription. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is the right one though. Right. Yeah, those things are very expensive. This cloud Defender for cloud is very expensive anyway. So yeah, but the focus is this guy here. He's also done. Key Vault. Go to resource. We will do something, one or two things on this later on. Maybe we'll do that on. We'll do the Key Vault stuff on. What's the day? We do it on Wednesday, yeah. But let's finish off our storage account. So when I go to storage account one more time, are you guys with me, or have I lost you already?
Mhm.
So I was just trying to build this,
Yeah, we are here.
build this in parallel. Okay, so it's there. So when I come in here, you already know that we can go to file shares and create our files. But I want you to see. Let's see, where's my networking? Networking. So in networking, it tells you that the only subnet allowed is a certain subnet. Yeah, one subnet. But what subnet is it? Click that and that's what we get. It's a private what? Subnet. Is the only one allowed to speak to this storage account. So I'm gonna go and create what? A file share quickly. Let's create a file share. This is a quick reminder that we've done it before. So I will say private access NFS share. Create. Done. And I want to connect to that. I'm just going to copy this here and deconnect. Remember that on Windows, I can copy this file here and apply it, right? Now, I've said that I only have access to it from a certain V subnet. That means that if I'm from outside of this connection, which is this network here, that's me from outside, I shouldn't be able to add myself to it. Yeah, it says I can add myself if I wanted to, but I'm not going to add myself. I'm only allowing this VNet and the subnet here to talk to this storage account. So I'm going to go to PowerShell ISC. Many of you remember that. Let's load on this other window. I'm going to bring it across here. Paste this here. Then I'm going to go into my Windows machine here and I go to this PC. My PC these days is misbehaving, but anyway. So when I come in here, we have C. There's a share that I did with Kwame the last time. It's still here, Kwame. I don't know why. Let me remove it actually. Okay, ignore that for now. Let it do its thing. When I come in here and I do run, it's trying to connect to that storage account, yeah? What do you guys see here? Let me open it wider.
Access denied.
Do you see it?
Credentials added successfully.
Yes, it knows the credentials is correct, but the access is what?
Denied.
Yeah, I know you love the credentials added, but it means nothing because the access has been denied.
Mm,
But then when I go into the private VM, well, let's prove this. If I added myself to this storage account now, I'm just adding my IP address to it now, and I do save. Just to prove that if you add yourself to it, it will work. If you don't, it will only work for what network is been attached to it. Yeah. When I come back here now, it's added now, and I do play. Let's see. Done. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. But of course, you don't want that because you don't want anybody to be able to now connect to your resource that you need only for your VMs. So I'll front up on it. So I'm just going to delete this now. Okay, well, it's fine. But I don't want somebody from the public subnets to be able to what? Add this code to themselves. So let's see which VM is running right now. Let's go to VMs, open here. Let's go to, we did this on Keyboard is fun. We're going to do, maybe reason that we build an app with it and test it. Virtual machines. Which one is running? Oh, private subnets. Okay. Private subnet is running. So when I connect to it, it should connect and the public subnet should not connect. So let's run public subnet now. Okay, guys, I need 10 minutes of your time. Is it okay to carry on for 10 minutes?
Yeah, go on.
yes.
Okay, let's wait and hear from school prefect Henry.
Yeah, go on.
Go on where?
You say you need 10 minutes of our time. So yeah.
All right, let's see.
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting some problems with my VM. Oh, there is an active shared access signature outstanding for disk operation. Oh, the disk thing I was doing. Oh my God, what was I doing on this thing here? Where's the disk encryption I was doing? Did I start it? Ah, come on, don't tell me I started. Guys, did I start the encryption at all? Everybody goes quiet, and you're thinking, what's going on here? Aha, you see, I did exports. Yes, it says SAS URL has been generated for this for export. While it's in this state, it can be edited or attached to a random virtual machine. Please click here to cancel the export. I'm going to click here and cancel it. If you start a disk export, you can't start the VM up because you're trying to export the disk, so the VM won't allow you to start it. Yes, always read the errors. Yeah,
Is that because it's exporting or because it
because
thinks it's been exported, so it won't
yes,
let you do it?
yeah, exactly. It thinks it's been exported because it knows I've generated something already.
Right, right.
Yeah, so it's pretty clever. It knows how to protect itself, right? Because if somebody's copying this one, I'm trying to run it, guess what? It won't work. So, overview. Now, when I start this one, it should be okay. So, guys, the answer to every problem is in the problem itself. When you read it, it tells you what's going on. They don't lie. Done. Refresh that, and then it says running state. Yeah. So now I'm going to connect to this public VM now, but I'm going to use our friend, Mr. Bastian. So let that run. We got a private here. I'm going to copy the storage thing. Go to file shares and connect. Now, when I deconnect, I should be able to connect only from the private account. I'll change the to P. Let's do safe as L. I'm going to just do it from the private VM. That should only work. Well, when I go to public, it shouldn't work. Yeah. So I'm going to go to private first, and I'll run PowerShell. PowerShell ISC. That's a friend, guys. Very good guy. Should have run for a long time. Unfortunately, it doesn't. This paste doesn't always work. Let me see. There's a way to do it. Let me see. Click here. That's how you paste. Yeah. You put it here first. Now when I do press this, I said L. I think 1, 2, 3. So it's checking if it can get to that storage account. And behold, we have L. Can we check and see? This PC, we have L there. Clear, right? Answers, please, guys.
Yeah, clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. PowerShell ISC. So this happens to be the public VM. We all agree, right? This is a public VM. So it says public here, as you can see, public. Let me add code here again. And then always press the script thing. Then you're able to put your script in it. When I do L, I'm waiting for it to say failed. And it works like a charm. Same VNet, and yet it's this storage account will only speak to one machine. Do we see here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you secure your infrastructure. Always find. Let me give you some few tips here. Where is my pen tool here? Okay. Okay, let me see if I can go to a drawing. Let's go to the. This is Maria Watcher. Maria, you love this watcher, don't you?
Yeah, especially when it's working.
Yes. Have you faced it yet?
No.
Okay. So let me see if I can sketch here. Okay, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna give a task on this there. So, because once you know this, yeah, no one can stop you. So we created. So this is corporate Azure VNet. Corporate Azure East US VNet. It's in a resource group. So resource group is this box. Yeah. So everything here is in this one big resource group. Do we all agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And everything is under this VNet. We all agree, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But what I've done is in the same resource group, you don't see it here, but you and I have done something very interesting. We have created somebody called we've created a storage account. And as part of our security, what we said is this guy just needs to be a shared folder, shared drive to a resource that is this guy. This guy needs to have drive L going across to here. So when I write a file here, da, 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 it goes across this wire and then it's stored here. Do you all agree on that?
Yeah.
But what I've said is I don't want to permit any access to this storage account from the internet. Now, the storage account has the ability to talk to the World Wide Web. So on its own, it is able to talk to the internet by default. By default, storage accounts will talk to the internet. Always remember these keywords. By default, they will talk to the internet. But you can say, I don't want you to have access to what? Public access. But the only thing I want you to have access to is what? I want you to have access to private. And this private is what? The private subnet, or I can say everything here can talk to this storage account, but not from outside in. So within this VNet, within this resource, within this organization, we can all talk to this. We can all talk to this and store our files there. Yeah, but we don't want this to be exposed to the internet because of the biggest challenge you have is this guy is here. You can't trust them because one of them could be a hacker who was trying to what, steal files. And so to do that, you go to storage accounts, click on the storage accounts, and look for security and networking. Security and networking, as you can see here, select networking here, and then you specify. I say I want to enable only this for selected virtual networks and IP address. Okay, so what do I want to do? Clear this. Is it okay? Okay, clear this. What I want to do is I want my machine, if I was a VPN, my VPN address, my VPN or my home machine have access to this thing here. And this could also represent your office. It could also represent a server in your office, anything that is elsewhere. It could also be a VM you have on AWS. Let me clear this nicely here. So this 95 could also be a VM that is sitting on AWS, and you want that VM to come and store files in this storage account on Azure. You find out that Azure storage is cheaper than AWS, or you want to back up somewhere away from AWS so that if AWS goes down, it doesn't affect your data. So what you've done is you've purchased Azure storage accounts and you're storing your files there. So you said, okay, allow my IP address, which is 95.aws.vm.231, which is just I'm just playing games, but this is numbers. I want you alone to be the one who talks to this shared file here, this storage account. So I can now mount you here as the L drive, and I can write my files into it, and automatically goes there and is stored away from AWS, for example. People do this a lot. Yeah, because AWS also provides a storage account called S3 buckets. People use S3 bucket to store a lot of data. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can now specify who is given access into this account. Now, earlier on, I demonstrated to you amply that I could connect here on the L drive. And guess what? Computers. All right. When you need to demonstrate something, it shows off. Staying there. Okay. All right. Once again, I'm just gonna move my run thing across here. When I type L colon and I press enter. Or did I use L or P? I don't remember. What key did I use? What did I
I think
use?
it was L.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Oh, Z. There it is. So that's our Z file, yeah? Our Z storage. From public. And then when I go into here, this is private. So guess what? I came to private and I can see the file I wrote from all the way somewhere else. Then I can also create a new file and I'll say from private. And of course, this guy can't get to it anyway. And when I come here and I refresh for a while, there it is. So two different people have written to the same disk and as if it's in one place. But so you can have you can have collaboration by different parties into one resource. Yeah. So this is what we've done. And now when I do delete, what is going to happen to me, my computer? Can someone tell me what's going to happen?
You won't be able to connect.
You
to
should not
storage.
be able to access them.
You sure? Okay, let's refresh that then. Of course, the only way to find out is I refresh. Bang. So that's how you can, let's say you had a branch. So you got a storage account, let's say it's in an Azure, yeah? And you got a branch office. You got another branch office. You got another branch office. And they're all right into this storage account. All of a sudden, another company buys this branch and they leave your company. You no longer have a relationship with them. You just come to this list, which is what I showed you, and just delete their IP address, which is 95.x.y.z, and all of a sudden they cannot connect anymore. You get it? So it's a really, really powerful. So the storage accounts almost seem to have a firewall embedded in it because it's able to control who can come in and who can go out. So but this applies to databases, applies to many other things. So if they tell you to harden something, what they're trying to tell you is make sure that only the right party can talk to it. Yeah. Oh, I like this one here. Come on, what's going on here? Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. So this what it works. So now I'm just gonna add another subnet to it. So add an existing virtual network, the same virtual network. and I'm gonna add my subnets. I'm gonna add the public one because that's where I was earlier, just to prove that now that you added, when I go there now and I run it, I'm waiting for it to do it. It takes a few moments. Still running, so patience. Your console do it. It's enabling, so it takes a little while. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes to complete. That's why it's always good to design from the onset, not after the fact. When you're doing it before is better because you have to go and write a few codes in the back end. For me here, it's easy because it's just an IP address coming from outside in. Okay, this is done now, which is good. There we are. So you now have the private and the public. So now when I go over here and one more time, I just press play. Press play. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, let me copy it over again. The public, okay. Go to file shares. Oh, hang on. I have to save it. Oh, come on, that's why. So when you do it once and you add it here, you have to save it. Guys, forgive me. You have to do it twice, yeah? Add it to this list, then press save. If not, it means nothing. So now when I do press play, you should better. There it is. And I should see 2 files in there. From private, from public. Yeah. Has it been a good exercise?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I ask you to create a storage account and harden it, could you do it?
Maybe.
Yes, maybe.
Give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go. Yeah, give it a go. This applies to databases and what have you. Okay, I'm gonna show you some other ones, but that means I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop the recording. Okay, just to show you that this is done for many other things. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna have to go.
Oh yeah. Anyway, it's time. I'll take screenshots and show you to you guys. All right. But if you want to stay on for the next 2 minutes, stay on, and I'll show you quickly.
Thank you, Sam. Cheers, guys.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye for now. Okay. Okay. Let me stop the recording, and I'll show you this one to you guys. Yeah.